Hello and welcome to Let's Talk Sports. I am Ralph Labella.
And I'm Ron Sen. Charles Barkley wrote a book. As I recall, the title was, I May Be Wrong, But I Doubt It. For years, we've been saying that former Celtic Rajon Rondo really wasn't the player that he was touted to be, that he wasn't a max player. And this week, he had total implosion for the Dallas Mavericks, total insubordination on the court, basically quit during the middle of a game, and Dallas has announced he will not play another game for them.
Well, Ron, number one, the Celtics waited too long to trade him. You know, they got Crowder in a number one pick, which was good. I like Crowder a lot. But if they traded him when we were asking them to trade him 3 years ago, before he got injured, they would have got, Ainge was looking for 2 number ones. I mean, Ainge is smart enough. I mean, he knows a lot more than we do about basketball and pro basketball. But to think that, you know, Rondo was an addition for them and that they were going to get 2 first-round draft picks, I mean, that's asinine. I mean, we knew that 3 years ago. We were hoping he got a number one or maybe a player, a center, a guy who, you know, could impose his will down low. Instead, he waited too long. But again, we got Crowder. We got something for him. But everybody knew it around here. You hope everybody knew it. But what did we say when they traded him to Dallas? It's not going to be long before the Dallas fans says, what the fans say, what did we get here?
For those who didn't see the game, first of all, everyone realizes that Rondo's free throw shooting has been abysmal this year, well under 40%. When they clear him through to the corner, the other team doesn't even cover him. They drop off defensive players such as Jason Terry, who helps on somebody else. Third, literally he quit during the middle of a game. They passed the ball to him after a rebound. He walked it up court and was called for an 8-second violation because he didn't get over. After that, he didn't get back into the defense. He just stood there. They passed him to Terry. He made a 3. Earlier, he made a terrible turnover trying to pass the ball to somebody cutting down the lane, missed him by 5 feet. And then he got a foul and a technical foul for really just stupid defense. And if you were Carlisle, you had to get him out of there.
Yeah, but I blame Dallas too. Dallas, their system, I mean, Rondo doesn't fit their system. Number one, they call a lot of plays, so Rondo can't push the ball like he likes to put, like he was pushing with the Celtics. Celtics basically let him do whatever he wanted to when he was with the Celtics, but that's one thing. Dallas should have known that there was going to be a clash between Carlisle and him anyway. I mean, it's been a disaster for Dallas.
Well, he's a really smart guy, and the problem is, if you're a smart guy, he feels marginalized in the Dallas offense. He doesn't get to do what he does. He has to do what the coach wants him to do, and obviously Carlisle and Rondo butted heads, and Rondo's going to end up out a lot of money. He's probably frustrated because he's not the same player he was before he was injured. Some of his quickness is gone, and of course his shooting has never been his strongest point.
No, but he'll sign probably the Lakers. Kobe likes him. Kobe has 1 or 2 years left. He'll have a point guard there who'll push the ball. That's the type of game he likes to play. Kobe will get the ball. You know, he'll be a trailer most of the time. Well, a lot of the times, get the ball probably in the open court around the 3-point line after Rondo pressures the defense. And that's where he'll go. That's almost guaranteed he's going to the Lakers.
The word today was they said something to that effect to Stephen A. Smith of ESPN. And Stephen A., who most people believe is tightly connected to NBA circles, said, I'm not sure that's going to happen. So it may be that the Lakers have soured on Rondo, and he may be a bargain for somebody if he can rehabilitate his career with maybe taking a 1-year deal somewhere.
That's where the agent earns his money, because he's going to have to go to teams. He's going to have to go up to teams and show them, you know, although he has been injured and he's not as quick as he was. I saw him in a couple of games before he left with the Celtics. He was still moving the ball pretty good. But a rebuilding team like the Celtics were at the beginning of the year, you knew that he wasn't the type of player. We're all seeing it now. We've been arguing that for the last 3 years with other people, saying that you don't rebuild with Rondo. You know, Rondo goes to a team that likes the fast break, team that likes to push ball up the court, like the Lakers, and that's where he'll fit in. He'll definitely fit in with the Lakers. Now, will he make $15 million? No, he'll probably make about $8 million a year.
Well, the way I see it is he just needs too many touches. And nowadays, there's a saying in basketball that the ball has energy, that the more people touch the ball, the more they're involved, and the less time they hold the ball. There's a new concept of quote, touch time, end quote, that when players hold the ball less than 2 seconds, they have a much higher chance of scoring.
Well, I talked to people in work about that, about Rondo. I said, and that's before they all love Rondo. I said, just think of this. You're playing with Rondo. You get a rebound, defensive rebound. Ball goes to Rondo. Pushes the ball up the court. You're playing with him now. You're on the court. He controls the ball. He passes the ball, hoping that someone will take a shot that's open. They don't shoot the ball. They get it back to him. He controls the ball again, passes the ball for a shot. He's got the ball out of 24 seconds. If you're shooting the ball with 4 seconds left on the clock, out of the 20 seconds there, he's got the ball in his hands for at least 16 seconds. What are the other 4 guys doing? You're going to enjoy playing basketball that way? Of course not. Look at the Celtics now.
Well, if you watch the Lakers when Kobe's playing, it's the same way. Kobe's got the ball every possession, and teams like playing team ball. The coach of Atlanta, Budenholzer, his team, a lot of the players, Horford, Korver, have specifically said they really like playing when everybody's involved. Everyone knows they're going to have a chance to participate in the offense. They don't have a superstar, but they're a good team. Now they have some injuries, so they have troubles.
Yeah, look at San Antonio. Now, I really don't know. I watched the beginning of the game, but everybody was saying that, San Antonio got killed the first game. I said, I would bet right now, if I had a bet, that San Antonio will win the series. Honest, I don't even know what happened last night. I went to bed. Who won the game?
San Antonio won in overtime.
They won in overtime. I predict San Antonio will beat the Clippers. They'll make it to the finals. I'm saying they're going to get to the finals against Chicago if Chicago remains healthy, and San Antonio will win it again.
Yeah, San Antonio has great ball movement. The coaching is generally pretty good. They have really terrific experienced players. They have the Defensive Player of the Year, Kawhi Leonard.
I love Leonard.
Yeah, he's another free agent who's not going to the Celtics, but what's not to like about him? And you still have Duncan, Parker, Ginobili, guys who really know how to play basketball.
But you talk about that, Ron. Say Leonard went to the Celtics. What do you think the Celtics would be next year with Leonard? They'd be one of the top teams in the East.
They would be.
With the team they have now with Leonard playing the wing. They'd be unbelievable. I mean, just looking at the team, the way.
Well, there are guys out there, Ashik, if they could get him in the middle. Olenek is good in spots. Sullinger could be useful in the next couple of games at home because he can rebound. I'll give him credit for that. And that's, we'll get into the Celtics later more, but rebounding has been a huge difference for them. We'll talk about the Patriots today a little bit because they went down to the White House. Well, some of the players went to the White House.
What happened with Brady? I heard it on the news tonight.
Well, I hate to be doubting Thomas, but he said there was a family engagement. Now, I don't know if that meant he was braiding Giselle's hair or, putting bows in Vivian's hair.
Well, Giselle was out in L.A. I know that. She was for some fundraiser or whatever.
Maybe he had to babysit.
Who knows?
I don't know. It's obviously a few years ago, the Bruins made headlines when Tim Thomas didn't accompany the Bruins to the White House. Thomas made it a political statement. I don't think Brady's that kind of guy that would make a political statement. If he had any career political ambitions of his own, you don't want to do something that's clearly a faux pas politically at this point in your career.
Yeah, something had to come up with one of the kids or something. I mean, you don't miss that, especially someone like Brady with his reputation.
Well, supposedly his parents had their anniversary recently, but that was a few days ago, so that isn't likely to have fall. You don't know. And he said it was a family commitment, so I guess we take it at that.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, there were other Patriots that didn't show up. Julian Edelman showed up with absolutely the strangest haircut. He looked like he had a mohawk.
Was Gronk there?
Gronk was there. The president made some jokes. He said, normally I'd like to make some jokes at an event like this, but I'd be afraid that 11 out of 12 of them would fall flat. And I think it's kind of a roast, a celebrity event in these things, and you have to expect that. So if you can't take a little bit, then I think that there's something really wrong with you. And then Gronkowski, he said to Gronkowski, "Please keep your shirt on." And Gronk said, "Well, what would happen to me?" Well, Obama said something like, "Well, the Secret Service would have to deal with you." And he said, "What could they do to me?" So, kind of crazy. All in all, it's much better. I don't care. how negative an event would be. It's much better to have your team showing up at the White House because something good happened to your team.
That's right. The UConn girls are going to be going there shortly, too.
Right. And then there was a memorable opening day ceremony at Fenway Park for the Red Sox opener recently. I was pretty sure it was going to be a public firing of Chiarelli and Julian, but only half of that came true.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you got to know that Julian's definitely going. They're going to wait for the general manager. Who's ever the general manager will do the firing and hiring there. That's why they haven't fired him yet. I mean, there's no way he can stay. I think everything happened because of him. You know, he didn't want Sagan. They traded Sagan. You know, he didn't want Kessel. They traded Kessel. And, you know, before that, he didn't want the young players who didn't play two-way. But like I said before, I mean, these players that play defense, are they playing two-way? They're not doing anything on offense. You know, you need offense.
Well, as the saying goes, you cannot win the game 0-0. And it's the same with practically any sport. Players want to play an exciting game. I'm sure the Patriots players enjoy the no-huddle, up-tempo offense, just like the Philadelphia Eagles team enjoys playing that style, versus walking the ball up court, you know, not passing the ball around or just dumping into the post somewhere. That's not fun. So players in hockey, it can't be much fun to just be worried about back checking and then once in a while trying to get a breakout. And the younger players especially, I mean, think back to if you were a youth hockey player. Did you say, oh boy, I really wanted to be, you know, Eddie Westfall and be the checker on the third line? That's really the most fun aspect of hockey.
Oh, in high school basketball, too. They want to run. They don't want plays called every time.
Sure.
And then when you get into that mindset where you're going to, even if you run, the coach is going to call plays, you know, and then you're not going to enjoy the game. I mean, I know a number of players, just about every player, they want a coach that loves to run the transition type game where when you get a rebound, you're pushing the ball until you understand you don't have the advantage anymore. But they want to run the court.
Well, if you could play any style you want, the best teams are spread the floor, dribble, drive, penetrate. You take threes or drive to the basket, you know, for a dunk or you know, attack the basket, maybe get fouled, make a layup. And that's how people play. Now, obviously, there's going to be some teams. If you don't have the players, you can't play that way. If you don't, and you know, if you were Brad Stevens when he was at Butler, you can't play that way because you don't get the athletes that can play. So you're going to have to play a screen game because that's what you have.
But right. But here's what I said. You know, going back, I'm not going to say what season it was. I mean, I've seen it at Melrose High School in the girls program, where the coaches should be telling the girls, you want to get on the court? You better get in shape and you better come ready to play because we're going to play an up-tempo game. You know, there'll be times where if I can't rely on you to play that up-tempo game, then you're only going to get in there at times when I need you if we want to go with a half-court game once in a while, but that's going to be very rare. We're going to be an up-tempo team. Hey, you got all summer, you got all fall. Get yourself in a great shape. Come show me that you want to play that type of game and you can play it. What's wrong with that?
I tell the kids that, first of all, everybody in the off-season should be spending a minimum of five minutes continuously jumping rope. Put a video on the website today, 50 ways you can jump rope differently. So it's not just boring jumping up and down jump rope. There's all kinds of front, back, side to side, skipping rope, high knees, this, that, and the other thing that is great for your conditioning, your coordination, and your stamina. So that's one simple thing. But for example, there's one coaching program that what they do is they have the players separate into 3 groups on a track at 220-yard intervals. You get, for example, 40 seconds to run the 220, and then you have the second group goes off. So you have guards, forwards, and centers. After that, the third group goes off. After the third group has gone off, so it's a 2-minute cycle, the first group goes again. You have to run your 220 in less than 40 seconds. You do those 3 groups, so you have to run 8 times every third cycle. So you run a mile, you have to be able to sprint that, and you have to pass that test. That's the conditioning test. Obviously, you can say, well, I don't want to have a conditioning test. Well, all right. There's a book called The Politics of Coaching. As part of their preseason evaluation, they had a weight test, a running test, and a jumping test.
Who is this now?
This is Carl Pearson. This is a high school coach
High school.
out in the Midwest.
All right, good.
All right. So they have tryouts. A girl doesn't make the team. Okay. So the parents say, this is outrageous. Why didn't my daughter make the team? And they said, well, first of all, in the conditioning test, the running, jumping, and weightlifting, she finished dead last of every single athlete we have. So her athletic ability didn't say she wasn't trying. Her athletic ability wasn't enough for her to compete at that level with the other girls that she was going up against to try to make the team. Now, my assumption is, and I don't know that it's reasonable or not, is that the person who's last in athletic ability is not going to be among the leaders in basketball playing ability. We've had a number of players who, I remember a player, I'll say her name, Sydney Doherty. She, as a young player, she was a terrific athlete and had not played basketball. So she was very raw, but I thought she'd end up being a pretty good player. And she, because of her athletic ability and her commitment, her willingness to learn, she became a very good player for us.
Well, she was a very good 8th grader.
Oh,
she was one of the
outstanding.
best 8th graders around. She went up to high school. The progression, as happens at times, stopped. The progression, she got better, but not as good as
Right.
she should have
some
gotten.
injuries, different things.
And I mean, she went from her when she was in the 5th grade to the 8th grade. I told you, she improved more than any player I've ever coached. And what happens a lot in high school, the progression stops. They stop taking it real serious. You'd think the coaches would take it more serious. Not all of them, but it happens. And you see a lot of these players that go up to high school thinking it's going to be a great experience, and it's not. And we've said it 100 times.
Oh,
I'm not
talk
gonna
about
knock
coaching, for
anybody.
example. I think about, let's say you have, you're developing a post player. All right, something simple like getting open. All right, you ask the girl, how are you going to get open? How are you going to get open if the girl's playing you 3/4? Do you know enough to open up your body? Are you able to get your front leg over the girl? If you can't get open, what are your alternatives? You're going to come up and set up set a screen at the top, or set a screen on the wing, or are you going to set a screen off the ball for another cutter to come to the ball? Are you going to, if you can't get position when you are coming down to the elbow, you're going to run to the baseline and then cut back up? Now, you might have a high school coach who's a pretty experienced coach, but do they know how to coach every position, put in some drills to work that player so that she can become the best she can be, or he can become the best he can be? Does the post player know if they're on the block and the wing can't open, they've got a flash post to the elbow? You got to know those things to be a successful player. And there's no way to just divine that watching a basketball game. Somebody has to coach you, teach you, drill you, and constantly give you feedback and mentoring so you become the best player you can. Now, you take that okay, we're talking one simple aspect of playing the post. I didn't say anything about how to get open if you're being fronted. What are your other options? Well, do the coaches, who's a freshman basketball coach, junior varsity coach, do they know all these things? Are they teaching these things? I don't know. Just because I know them, that's not helping the players.
You don't know? You don't know if they're coaching it? Or?
I don't know if they're coaching.
You don't?
The boys' program's been very good.
I know they're not getting coached the way they should be getting coached.
Well,
and it starts from when they get into high school as freshmen. I'm not saying, it could be happening all over the place, but
sure.
I don't know. It starts from the athletic director. I just think the program should be run the right way, and it should be set. And the girls should be working hard in the summer. What's happening now in some of the teams, the girls are not working hard enough in the summertime. They don't care enough because the experiences they're going through aren't happy experiences, and that's a problem.
Well, it's got to be fun so that you develop a love of the game, want to be the best you can be, and it all starts there. We'll be right back. Welcome back. I don't know how you feel, Ralph, but I'm happy to see the Celtics playing in the playoffs. They played reasonably good basketball the first half of the first game. They have not quit. At any point did they not quit. And they're back in the Garden tonight, and hopefully they'll be able to deliver at least one win in the next couple of days.
Yeah, this is a great learning experience for these younger players. Players like Smart, Olenek, all them. Every player on that team. Not many of them have played in the playoffs before.
I know you're not a big smart guy. I just think the guy has got so much heart. He is tough.
What I liked about in these last 2 games is I'm starting to, I'm seeing it now in the playoffs with Smart. He's not backing down. I'm looking at him, I'm saying, geez, in 2 years, he keeps improving. He's confident in that shot. If he can get consistent with that shot, I'm seeing now, like the last show I said, I'm thinking about maybe packaging Smart and Sellinger and getting someone good, get a big guy, because you got, when the Celtics drafted Smart, they didn't know they were going to get Isaiah Thomas. Now they got Isaiah Thomas. I liked Bradley playing with Isaiah Thomas because he can hit the pull-up jump shot. But what I'm seeing now in these playoff games against Cleveland, I'm seeing that Smart is handling the pressure situations better than Bradley is. He's a hard-nosed player. Bradley's, in a way, backing down. But I told you about Bradley, what I don't like about Bradley, and we'll get back to Smart, he doesn't take the game out. And here's one occasion. As coaches, we look at the game. Olenek hits 5 shots in a row. No, 4 in a row at the time. Okay, he had 10 points. He had 2 3-pointers. He sets a pick for Bradley. The pick and pop. Now, Bradley knows Olenek's great at setting the pick, and he pops on the pick. Pops off the pick, he's wide open. Bradley comes off the pick and takes a 3-pointer off balance, not even looking at Olenek and knowing that Olenek's going to be wide open. He doesn't pick up those situations. Someone like Smart would. So I'm looking at that situation, I'm saying, geez, I saw Reggie Lewis when he was younger, his first year, and then I saw how much he improved over the next 2 years. I'm saying if Smart, and he's even tougher than Lewis was, I'm saying if Smart keeps improving, then he could be the player.
Well, one thing about playoff basketball, whether it's high school or professional basketball, is you don't get as many transition baskets because the good teams don't give up transition baskets, and the play gets much more physical. So you need a player like Smart is a physical player. I mean, nobody's going to question his heart, his toughness. I mean, I worry about Isaiah. He goes to the basket and he's getting whacked. And the Celtics, I don't think they've gotten. I think maybe they got a little bit of the short end of the calls, but that's what happens when you're on the road. Generally speaking, the officials, you're not going to get the same calls you should get at home.
Oh no, LeBron's going to get it. Well, he's so freaking strong. He hits you with his arm. Other people when they touch you, it's no big deal. When he hits you, you can feel it. What he did to a couple of the rebounds the Celtics got, and he just ripped them, took their arm off, and the refs didn't call it. But that's not what lost it. Thompson killed him. Thompson didn't have 1 point. He had 11 rebounds, 5 offensive rebounds in the 4th period, and it killed him. I mean, the Celtics cut it to 3 one time. Cleveland misses a shot. He comes down and gets another rebound. And he kicks it out to hit a 3-pointer.
Well, your discussion earlier, you mentioned Chicago. The kind of player that I would love the Celtics to have. Yeah, of course. They can't. They're not going to have him. They can't get him, etc. But he is tough. He can take the ball to the basket. He's a terrific passer. I went to a game last year and he had 13 assists. I was telling my wife Ellen, I said, "You're never going to go to another basketball game and see the center get 13 assists." I just love the way Noah plays.
But Ron, as a Celtic fan, I feel great about what his team is. I can't believe it.
Yeah, they're not close to a championship, but if they get a couple of good pieces, like they're playing with mostly complementary players. They have 6th, 7th players out there.
Who are going to improve? Most of these guys are going to improve. They're young.
Right. Zeller's in his 3rd year, I think. He can still get better. He was never going to be a dominant center, but he might put on 10, 15 pounds and be able to rebound a little better.
You know how I feel about Olenek? I think Olenek's going to be, he's going to be big time in another year or two.
Well, Sellinger, I think they got to trade him at the end of the season.
Right, and Crowder, I like Crowder. He's a tough, hard-nosed player.
He's a free agent, so.
But they got to sign him, and they like Jerebko, too. He's a free agent.
Right.
He's a little older. But, you got Isaiah, you got Smart, you got Bradley. They got a nice team. They need the big guy to intimidate it down low. They can somehow get that. But if you're a Celtic fan, you have to be proud of this team.
Well, with rare exceptions, there was a game earlier in the against Miami down the stretch. Yeah. They kind of didn't show up, but
in the Clippers.
For the most part, they play really hard. And as a fan and as a coach, you've got to admire the effort. The big term in the NBA, and we've probably said this before, is buy-in. The players have to buy in. And if I'm the coach, I'm saying, look, I got my $22 million for 6 years. do you want to get your money? This is what you have to do to get your money. You'll be successful. I mean, you have to, first of all, you got to win. But second of all, if you play hard and help your teammates, you're going to put up numbers and you're going to get paid.
But I mean, I'm really enjoying these two games. They're playing tonight. I think they have a great shot at beating Cleveland. They're not a team that's going to wilt. They're going to come after them. The fans are going to be going crazy tonight. I think it's going to be a great game. I think they can win it tonight.
Well, there have been some really good games. A little bit of surprises. The Wizards have beaten Toronto twice. Now, the Wizards,
I thought that.
they have John Wall. He's a terrific point guard. Paul Pierce, the old man, has looked pretty good out there.
Good too.
Beal's had some bad shooting earlier. Who was it? Was it J.R. Smith the other night? He just bricked so many shots.
Yeah.
He looked really
He's either
uncomfortable.
on or he's not on.
Yeah, he was way off, which is good for the Celtics. But he heated up a little bit later in the game.
But tonight's the game. I mean, tonight I really believe they can beat them. If they play as hard as they did in the first two games and they can hit some of those wide open shots. Crowder missed a couple of wide open shots that would have got him back, I think, tied at one time. But, they're playing at Cleveland and they're down 2 points in the fourth period. And then another time, 3 points with 2-something to go.
Well, anybody who knows anything about basketball would say the three players on Cleveland, Irving, LeBron, and Love, are better by a lot than any player on the Celtics. And the Celtics are playing them tough. Can't say they're playing them even, but they're playing them tough.
And then these idiots on TV are saying, well, Stevens might be feeling the pressure because he kept Bradley in there too long. He kept someone else. I feel like saying, you guys, know the game. That's the type of game he coaches. He'll give Bradley a chance. If he's not on, then he'll substitute. I mean, don't forget, Bradley's been one of his better players down the stretch.
Yeah, and Evan Turner's having trouble. It's hard to get to the basket against the big shot blockers, and Cleveland's got a very strong interior defense, and the inside game that Turner's gotten through much of the year, he's just not getting it right now.
I love the way they're playing. If they could have hit a couple of more shots, get those rebounds. I mean, Thompson killed them last game. They could have went right down to the wire, and LeBron James threw up a brick near the end. They got the rebound and they hit a three. So they got to get those rebounds, especially at the end of the game. They got to get on those defensive boards and they got to box out better. But if they can control the boards, they'll win tonight. That's what it's going to come down to.
The two other teams that we haven't talked much about, obviously Golden State. I love to watch Golden State play. They've got Stephen Curry, who's a fantastic shooter. You probably saw some of the highlights of him hitting 77 three-point shots in a row in practice. And they asked Scalabrine about that. He said, did you see the video? He said, I don't have to see the video. I was assistant coach there. I could see it every day in practice. And
they're not going to win, though.
Well,
they will not beat San Antonio. They can't beat San Antonio.
They're young. San Antonio could wilt it with age.
San Antonio will get better and better like they did last year.
I know. It's hard to bet against San Antonio. I just really like Golden State and Kerr as the coach.
I think Leonard, I would take, if it was Golden State and you had all those players, okay, Thompson and Curry, and who's a power forward that's real good too?
Draymond Green.
Yeah, and then you have, I would take Leonard. I would probably take Leonard over anybody in that division if I was picking one player. He's the best offensive player, man on man. Offensively,
well, Scalabrine said if he had to draft one player in the NBA,
Davis.
No, he said, well, age excluded. He said Curry, but I agree with you, Davis. Davis is a revelation. He's a kid, but he's one of the top 2 or 3 players in the league right now. I think he had 35 points in the first game against Golden State. He can shoot inside. He's a shot blocker. He's a rebounder. He's just tough as nails. He's only going to get better. And
that'd be a great matchup because I think they put Leonard on Curry, I bet you. I bet it's if they play.
Yeah. And then in the East, everybody's just talking about Cleveland's going to roll.
No.
Chicago.
And don't forget Atlanta. Don't forget them, I'm telling you.
I think Atlanta's going to be out. I think they've had too many injuries now.
Well, if Atlanta goes up against Chicago, I don't know what will happen. I think Cleveland will go up against Chicago, won't they? If Cleveland and Chicago win?
I think you're right. I think
Atlanta will play Washington.
Right. So the Chicago's got obviously Derrick Rose, who still has been a little bit off game to game. Jimmy Butler is fantastic. He's another free agent who probably will sign with Chicago. They have Gasol.
Yeah, Butler's real good.
They have Noah. I mean, they're loaded, and they have a good coach in Thibodeau. So Chicago is a real threat. I'm just really impressed with how they've been playing so far.
There's going to be a lot, if you're a basketball fan, a lot of great games. I mean, I haven't stayed up to watch. I watched a little of the San Antonio game last night, just the first period. But, I mean, it's so late, unless you tape it.
It is late, but there's just a lot to watch. Now, obviously, we might have talked a little bit about the Hall of Fame voting with JoJo White going into the Hall of Fame, which, I think it's well-deserved. I think he won 2 championships. And, he was a terrific team leader. I was down the Melrose YMCA years ago, and I was going in to shoot a basketball. And I see this guy there with his daughter. His daughter looks like she's about 12. And I say, that looks like JoJo White. So then he picks up a ball and he shoots it. I said, that is JoJo White. Now, I didn't bother him, because what I'm going to do, go over and say, you're JoJo White, like he doesn't know that?
He's a real good guy.
Yeah, and it's just nice to see another Celtic make it. And there was Heinsohn says, well, they told me that there were too many Celtics in the Hall of Fame. like they can control that.
Where'd he go, to Kansas State?
Kansas.
Kansas?
Yeah, another terrific.
Great shooter.
Terrific Celtic. Played with Havlicek, just unbelievable
But what's
player.
your prediction now? Who do you think is going to come out of the East and West? And who do you think is going to win it all?
I think Chicago's coming out of the East, and I think Golden State's coming out of the West. I know that I love San Antonio, but I think Golden State, this is their year, and I like Golden State to win it all.
I saw something in that Golden State 2 games against New Orleans that I didn't like. Unless Golden State was taking them lightly. I saw the first game when Davis took off in the 4th period, and they couldn't control him. And and I saw Curry, he was trying to be a pro, wasn't showing much enthusiasm. He finally hit a 3, but I'm saying to myself, I'm looking at them and I'm saying to myself, they don't look like a championship team to me. And then I saw him in the second game, the first period, where Golden State went up, they were down by 12. New Orleans went up by 12. I didn't see the rest of the game. And I'm saying to myself, to me, they don't compare to San Antonio. Well, but you're right. If San Antonio can stay strong throughout, they did it last year.
I'm just thinking that San Antonio and the Clippers are going to beat each other to death. And the survivor is not going to have enough to win in the next round.
Then you got Houston after that. One of those teams have Houston.
Yeah, Houston obviously is going to roll over Dallas. Dallas will probably win 1 game at home, but now
then Memphis too. Memphis will be tough on one of those teams.
Yeah, Memphis.
It'll be a great series run.
Yeah, the teams in the West are really good.
Unbelievable.
Now, obviously you say, well, who didn't make it? You haven't talked about Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City did not make it. Kevin Durant missed half the year. Scott Brooks got
Imagine they
fired.
fired him. He was one of the best coaches over the last 6 years.
Well,
he'll get hired.
Yeah, they fired him because Durant was hurt. It's not his fault that you can't win without Durant.
How about Perk? Perk's on Cleveland.
Yeah, I wish he'd play more. We'd have a better.
I know. You see his first pass? He threw it at someone's knee.
All right, maybe we should talk a little bit about football now, since the Patriots are coming up on the NFL draft. Everyone agrees sort of what the Patriots' needs are, but nobody agrees what probably because they don't know where they're going to pick. They have 5 picks in the first 105, I think.
Yeah, then they have a ton of picks in the middle there.
Right, but the first round draft choice, I'm going to guess that they're going to trade that down and try to get like a couple of seconds instead of the first.
Yeah, because it doesn't matter there.
Right, and they're always trying to save a buck. The way the Patriots think is if we don't draft a guy in the first round, we don't have to pay him first round money, and then.
Well, no, they'll do. You're right. They'll trade him for 2 second rounders, 1 this year and 1 next year.
Or else a second this year and a first next year.
Although you look at them and you say to yourself, they're a young team, one of the youngest teams in football. Their offensive lineman. To me, offensive lineman, unless he's a stud, you can make anybody an offensive lineman that's big and strong. You know what I mean? They can do it all. Even those guys. Who was the guy that was getting beat during the beginning of the year when they had the injuries? Not Klein, the other guy.
I was thinking Klein.
Well, Klein and they brought, but when they had an injury, I think Connolly got hurt during Wendell got hurt in one of the playoff games. So they bring this lineman, and he didn't get beat the whole game, the rest of the game. You work with your teammates, you work all year, and you have a good offensive line coach. You know they're going to go for one guy. But I wouldn't go for one guy early, unless he's a stud.
They re-signed Cannon. They don't know what position he's going to play.
I don't know where he's going to play either.
Now, obviously, the news came out that Nate Solder had testicular cancer diagnosed last April, had surgery, fortunately didn't need chemotherapy or radiation, and ended up with a Super Bowl ring.
Yeah, with Solder involved, what's his name?
Maybe that's why the first half of the year he was still recovering from his injury and he didn't play that well. But, right, if you have Vollmer's had some back problems over the years. Hopefully he's healthy. And, the question is, do you get the cornerback first? I mean, it depends on who's out there. Are they going to draft for need, or are they going to draft the best player?
But Ron, they got Fletcher from Philly, right? Or Washington,
right.
From Philly. His rating, I didn't notice, they gave the ratings on all the backs. Of all the back, counting Browner and Revis, out of all the cornerbacks and safeties, who had the best rating per pass in their direction, breaking up passes?
No idea.
Butler. Butler had
Malcolm Butler, yeah.
Butler had an 18. People think because he made that interception. I remember I told you in the exhibition season he impressed me. During the season when he played, he was very good. 18 point something % of the passes in his direction or the person he was covering, he broke up.
Well, he made a couple other big plays in the Super Bowl, including when he got away with pass interference when he tripped the guy.
But how about Revis? You know what Revis's rating was?
No.
14.6. Fletcher's rating was 14.1. Right there with Revis. Right. Browner was down in the 7s, and the rest of the guys.
Yeah, I mean, some of it is situational or scheme. They say that Fletcher's more of a zone cornerback, and sometimes when they put him up against Des Bryant had 3 long touchdowns against him. He said that's not his skill set. If you put him 1-to-1 against Des Bryant, who will beat a lot of players, that's not where he's going to excel.
But that's where Revis was great. You can set up those defenses. Put Revis either on the top receiver or the second best receiver. A lot of times what the Pats like to do is put him on the second best receiver and double up the best receiver.
All right, so what position are they going to pick in the first round, or are they going to trade down?
I'm saying defensive line because they say there's a ton of real good defensive linemen in the draft. And when they draft, there'll be some real good defensive linemen there. So even though they have Easley and they have the guy they got from Cleveland, he's a pass rusher.
Right.
They got him. You got Ninkovich. You have Jones, and then you got Salinga, and you have Chris Jones there with Branch. They signed Branch.
Right, Branches.
So they're pretty good. They're well stocked in there. They re-signed Mayo, to a lesser contract. So I mean, they're good at linebacker. I think they're good at line. They're real good at safety. I mean, I think hopefully Chung has the same type year.
Right.
But I like Harmon a lot.
Well, we'll talk more Patriots after the break. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We're going to continue with a little bit more about the Patriots as well as the NFL schedule. First of all, regarding the schedule, they're going to open up at home on Thursday Night Football against the venerable Pittsburgh Steelers, Mike Tomlin and Ben Roethlisberger. The NFL had 5.4 million possible scheduling choices, and they then try to plug in what they want for some specific matchups. For example, they know the Patriots are going to play the Broncos, and they wanted the Patriots to play the Broncos on the Sunday night following Thanksgiving. So then that reduces the number of scheduling possibilities by a certain number. And they wanted to have other matchups. They wanted to have Green Bay and Chicago on Thanksgiving evening. So they put in some games that they want matchups. And then they had something like 3,700 schedules that they went over individually. Of course, what was best for television.
Of course.
And then, unfortunately for the Patriots, they have a bye week really early. I think it's the fourth week. So that's a non-friendly bye week because you don't have as many injuries to recover from early in the season.
Yeah, you like it in 7th or 8th game after the 7th or 8th game, but it's a real good schedule. Someone said they had a cream puff schedule. I'm looking at the schedule. I said, what are these people thinking? I mean, they have a tough schedule, the Pats.
Buffalo is not a cream puff team. The Jets, I don't think, are going to be great. Miami at Miami is always tough, especially if you're playing them in December in Miami. So I don't see that the schedule's that easy. They have to go to Indianapolis. They have to go to Denver.
Dallas.
At Dallas, and they'll have Philadelphia at home.
Pittsburgh at home.
Yeah, so they've got, okay, so they do play the AFC South. They're not so great with Tennessee and Jacksonville. But, I wouldn't be shocked if they went 11-5. I mean, it could happen.
Well, it all depends on their defense, because their offense is going to be tremendous this year. I mean, they got it going last year. I mean, in the playoffs, they really poured it on against Baltimore. Look at against Indianapolis, the way they played against Seattle. I mean, they had it going. I know that they're losing Varane, is their receiving back, but I'd put Amendola in the back. I told you this. Why not in passing situations? Put Amendola in the backfield. Who's going to cover him coming out of the backfield? He's so quick with his cuts. He'd be way better than Varane coming out of the backfield. I'd love to see that because they have enough ends now.
Well, I hope that Edelman can stay healthy.
Oh, that's the key, him and Gronkowski.
Edelman has a new video on YouTube called Star Pats. And I don't know how much spoiler alert to give you, but I would just encourage you to watch Edelman's Star Pats video. And then there's one line in it, it's particular, it's incredible. But again, I don't want to totally give it away. I agree that their offense should be good.
Great. I'd say great. The offensive line is the key.
And they of course, they'll probably still try to draft a receiver because there's apparently a number of good receivers early. They haven't had a lot of luck developing their own receivers.
Well, they have enough receivers. Dobson's coming back from the injury. I think he's going to help them this year.
I mean, LaFell had a terrific year last year.
Yeah, you have LaFell, you have Dobson, you have Gronk. Don't forget you have Chandler. You're going to go with the two tight ends a lot most of the game. I mean, people are forgetting about him.
That's true. Chandler hurt the Patriots pretty badly when he's out there. A guy can really get open and catch the ball.
He's tall. Imagine Brady throwing to him, and you have Edelman again, Amendola. I mean, they definitely have enough there. I wouldn't fool around there. I mean, if they can really, if they can get a real good offensive lineman, I'm not sure if they can get one. Maybe we talked about one of those Florida State guys. But if they can get a real good offensive lineman, and you get another defensive lineman, a good defensive, if easily is the key.
All right, let's say you're there at 32. They still have their choice. Todd Gurley's on the board, the running back from Georgia, coming off ACL surgery. Do you say, I don't need a great running back. I can go with Bolden and LeGarrette Blount and Gray.
And that other guy you like, is it Gaffney?
Gaffney, Tyler Gaffney. Do they really need to do that? Or do you say, wow, this guy could be a game-breaking running back, so we have to go with him?
They won't go with him because the reason why they won't go with him is he's going to want to get a lineman. He's going to want to get maybe a good offensive lineman, strong offensive lineman to really fit in there.
Which team is the biggest threat to the Patriots in the AFC, do you think? If you said, what team do you not want to play? It's not Denver either.
Probably, I think the only team is Baltimore.
Yeah, to me it's Baltimore. How do you beat Baltimore? You need big, tough guys in the line because that's what Baltimore is built on. You have to be able to combat that. So I think you design a team to be able to compete against your chief rival. It's like the 49ers. They have to be able to beat Seattle, so they're going to have to do something. They may have to get smaller, quicker receivers or something so that they can do something against them.
Well, I mean, the way the Pats look right now, I mean, with Revis gone, that's the way every other area they're strong. I mean, the offensive line is key, but and they got, what's his name? He's scouting right now, and he's going to give him input. They're going to get an offensive lineman somewhere, maybe in a second.
One of these Florida State guys.
And I don't know if there's a great cornerback there they really like, but I wouldn't fool around with a cornerback if he's not better than the cornerback Dennard and those guys, or Ryan. If they don't have a guy that's better than them, why take a cornerback?
Well,
strengthen that offense and defensive line. Because with Brady at quarterback, I'm telling you, Ron, if they're healthy with those guys, they were so in sync in the playoffs against great teams.
Yeah, I'm reading this book now. I might have mentioned it before, War Room, which is the behind-the-scenes story of the Patriots, starting from when Belichick was with Cleveland. And he developed this unique scouting system where players are scouted on about 24 different criteria, and they look specifically, is this guy that they're drafting better than what they already have? Can they be a replacement for that player? And you say, what positions do they really have replaceable players? Maybe one in the offensive line, maybe one in the middle of the defensive line and cornerbacks. They're not really weak anywhere else.
Yeah, they'll probably, like you said, they'll probably trade that first-round draft pick unless there's someone there that they love. If there's someone there that they love, but where do they need the help? When you really think about it, I'm talking about starting. Where do they need the help? They don't need an end, because they're not going to. I mean, if it was a great end there, that's one. There's not going to be a great end there, so they don't need an end. Maybe an offensive lineman if he's good enough.
Yeah, there's not going to be Amari Cooper. He's going to be in the top 4 or 5 picks.
And they're not going to. They're not going to take a back. They're not going to take a back in the first round. So where do you go? You don't need an end. You don't need a back, quarterback. Unless there's a great offensive lineman they really like. You go to the defense. Maybe they won't go for a linebacker because they always pick up linebackers that fill in. You have 2 of the best. And I know that there's an injury there.
Hightower's coming off surgery.
So he'll probably won't come back till after the 4th game. But you got Mayo who's coming off an injury.
And Collins he could be a Pro Bowl player in a year or 2.
And then they always fill in with cornerback. They have White. I know they lost the 2 guys they pick up went to other teams. So you may see them pick up a linebacker in the 4th round or somewhere. But you don't need a big-time linebacker with the linebackers you already have. So is there going to be a cornerback?
Well, we'll jump over to baseball. I'll call it professional baseball, but that might be an exaggeration for a pitching staff with an earned running average of starters just under 6, which is not surprising. They, as much as Charrington and Farrell would protest supporting their guys that they're top of the rotation guys, they haven't been. They'll have good games, but unfortunately, they're having a lot of bad games.
Yeah, I mean, I told you in the last show, they're going to be 81 and 81 in that area. I mean, you look at the team, and that's the team. I mean, sometimes things change, but, everybody has their opinion. My opinion is they could be 81 and 81 or a little under that. I look at the team. People are overrating their offense.
Well, I think there's going to be some chemistry issues. Number one, Victorino's hurt already. He's got a hamstring
they don't need
pull.
him.
No, I know, but he's going to be grousing. He's going to be, difficult. Hanley Ramirez is, I don't know what the deal is here. He leaves on Patriots Day. It's too cold or something. Too early in the day. He seems to have a questionable attitude, but the guy can hit. I think he has 5 home runs already. And as much as I like Betts and Bogarts, they still have to prove that they're going to be productive players over the long haul.
The thing with Bogarts, though, Ron, I mean, I was listening, they sat him down one game. They had Holt play short, and a couple of announcers saying, he's hitting .316. How can they sit him down? Why are they sitting him down? Are they watching the games? He's got about 8 hits that have been bloop singles or little ground balls.
Yeah, I think
he's not hitting the ball hard.
I think right now you bury him inside with fastballs, and and then once you get him looking there, you can throw breaking stuff away. He's got holes still, and Betts, you can't pitch him inside. You have to pitch him away. So I think he'll adjust to that. I expect better from him.
They better hope that Ortiz has a great year, because if he doesn't have a great year, I'd say a real good year, they're going to have big-time problems.
Many of you are familiar with the Mario Mendoza, career journeyman player, and who's named after, or the Mendoza line is the 200 batting average. They talk about players who can't hit their weight. Well, I have a new line. It's called the Kate Upton line. That's the 140 mark. And if you can't hit over 140, you're below the Kate Upton line. That's about her weight. And those include Alan Craig, Shane Victorino, Mike Napoli. What team has 3 players, sometimes starters, hitting under 140? Only the Red Sox.
If you look at the Yankees lately, although they're starting to hit, the Yankees are starting to hit.
A-Rod's back on the juice. What does he do?
But Ron, you get to the 8th inning with the Yankees.
Batanzas got 3 wins
and
already.
Miller, look at Miller, his 6th save today they beat Detroit 2-1. I mean, they've won the last 3 against Detroit. And if Sabathia could have got into, he was pitching great. One more inning, the 7th inning, he gave up the 2 runs to Detroit. They would have beat them, because once you get to Batanzas and Miller, I mean, you're in tough shape. Neither one of them have given up a run this year.
Well, if you watch the NBA playoffs and then you switch to the Red Sox, you say, oh, wow, this is like watching molasses going uphill in the wintertime. It's just so slow. And especially Tampa, whatever it is about that stadium makes it even worse.
Hey, when are you going to start with your basketball? Have you talked to anybody?
I imagine it'll probably be around Memorial Day, unless a little sooner if it heats up. So, obviously in the off season, we have voluntary workouts 1 to 2 days a week for the players, so they can continue to work on their skill development. They don't get as much conditioning as they get during the regular season, but it keeps them touching the basketball. And to be good at any skill, you really need to keep using it on a regular basis.
Yeah, you have to have a program. I know a lot of your players are playing AAU, 6 of them anyway.
Right.
So they're getting a lot of work in. My thinking has always been, when I've talked to my parents, I tell them that after this March, well, the season ends mid-March, I think the players should take at least 2 months off, play another sport.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't understand that if they take that time off, when they come back, they're better players. They're playing better ball because they're a little more mature, a little stronger, they're growing. But get away from it for 2 months, come back, and that summer, then you start, I start mid-May, maybe towards the end of May, and you go to the summer and you're playing a summer league. I mean, you see huge improvement there, and then you get to the fall and the winter.
Right, I'm working on a free ebook on a basketball drill book. So for example, it'd be 100 basketball drills, ball handling drills, passing drills, team offense drills, shooting drills. And for example, there might be about 15 shooting drills that can help a player learn how to shoot different shots under different pressures. For example, one shooting drill that I like is you have a partner, it's a 1 to 2 minute drill. The partner rebounds the ball, throws you to the ball at the elbow, you shoot. You then run to the near sideline, touch the sideline, come back to the opposite elbow, catch the ball and shoot. And then you have to do it, repeat. You run to the sideline. So in a minute you should be able to get about 10 shots. But you're getting conditioning, and you're playing basketball at the speed of the game. You're not just stopping and shooting at the elbow. You don't want to get the elbow open shot during a game without being on the run or cutting to the spot. Never. That's an example of a drill that I've used with my players that, we're not great outside shooters. We're little kids. But it's the kind of drill, if you work on it, you'll become a much better player.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I like the drill where you go from elbow to elbow and you keep going down. You get your own rebound, you push it up, and you pound that last dribble so the ball comes where you want it to be, and you want to square. I mean, it's unbelievable. I think I've spent more time with my teams on squaring properly and having the right footwork. To me, footwork, balance is so important, getting the right position when you're shooting. And you keep working on it, and you saw, the thing I was really happy about is when we played in the finals that game, and we hit all those foul shots, and the girls that were shooting the foul shots, when they were releasing, I mean, I think we were like at one time 10 for 11, at one time in the second half, or 10 for 12, 7th graders, but they were squaring properly, their balance was perfect, and they were just burying the foul shots. But like you were saying, you want, taking the shots on the move in balance. Your footwork is so important.
Yeah, there's no substitution for being able to shoot the basketball. So you can be having a lot of bad days, but if your team can really shoot, like Ralph's 7th graders, they've got a number of players who can really shoot the basketball, so they can kind of shoot their way back in, or at least they have a chance to do that. If you can't score, you cannot win.
But Ron, that's what I say, and I'm not picking on anyone. I'm not picking on anyone here, but I see that with the high school teams. I mean, the program has got to start from when the season. Pappas was the best when he coached my son in that group. His teams always made the tournament. Pappas had everybody so organized in the summertime. You got to do this. You got to do this. If you want to have a chance of making a team, you want to play. You got to do this and this. And the kids had they were so disciplined, those teams. I mean, they were down. They knew what to do. I mean, that's what all these teams should be doing now. I mean, the program doesn't end when the season ends.
Right. When I was a kid, Sonny Lane came, he was former athletic director at Melrose, came to Wakefield from Stoneham. He'd been the Stoneham freshman coach. He went to Wakefield as the varsity basketball coach. The first order of business was painting the basketball court, one of the outdoor courts in town, including having a sign made, which said Tech Tourney 1973. So he was pointing to have our group being able to compete at that level, team that won 3 games the year before. So he wasn't saying we're going to be in the Tech Tourney right away, but he had a plan over a long time. He introduced us to John Wooden's Pyramid of Success. There was a big poster in the team room which had the Pyramid of Success, which has 15 elements to it, which I still give a laminated copy to each of my players every year so that they get exposed to that as well. He used multiple offenses and defenses in the Dean Smith time frame of the day or style of the day. So he had a plan, even though he came in as a young new coach. It wasn't random, and obviously coaches are restricted how much contact they can have with players during the off season. But you can give them a program. You can't insist they come to anything. You can't tell them how you want them to train. But you have some element of control. On the MelroseGirlsBasketball.com site, I have a blog. There are over 2,100 basketball posts, videos, drills. So a player can look at 2 or 3 new a day pieces of information that might help them become a better leader, a better student, and of course a better basketball player.
Well, what I would say to next year's girls varsity team, even JV's a freshman team, I would say to them, it's time. The last 5 years haven't been too good up there. I think it's 5 years now we haven't made the tournament. We've been down big time.
Well, they had 1 game.
Yeah, and they didn't want to win.
Salem.
Yeah, they didn't want to win that game because they were going to be playing Reading. I mean, I remember that game, but that was 4 or 5 years ago. So the last 4 years. But what I would say to the girls, I mean, there's no excuse next year. You're talented enough. You should be battling against the best teams in that league. There's no reason why you can't. And you got to take it more serious, and you got to put the work in this summer. You can't just go down the courts once in a while, sit there, joke around, and then go on the court, go half speed, and that's your practice. You all got to get together. You got to have a meeting, get together. The coach can't stay with you all summer. Like Dr. Sen said, the coach can only be with you at times, talk to you at times, but she can't be talking to you during the games or practices. So it's up to you girls. There's talent there, and I know, the attitude's got to get there. We've got to get that attitude back there. We're going to win the league next year. You got to go win. That's your mindset's got to be. We're going to go in and we're going to beat Watertown. We're going to beat Woburn. We're going to beat everybody else we face. And the only way you're going to do it is to be committed this summer. When I was down on some of the girls that I coached in middle school, they didn't work as hard as they should have. Some of them. I mean, you got to come with that attitude. Everybody get together. Come with that attitude because there's definitely talent there. And next year, I'd like to see you come back next year and take it to the Woburns, which I know you can beat. Take it to the Watertowns. But it's going to be up to you girls if you want it or not.
Well, Coach Shelley sent me the volleyball schedule the other day, and it's impressive. The top teams that they're playing this season will include 1 major home game with a powerhouse. That is Notre Dame Academy of Hingham.
Wow.
Will be at
They're
Melrose.
coming Melrose.
Now, they finished the season against Newton North at Newton North, against Westboro, and there's a 3rd team that I can't remember who the 3rd team is. Rick Perry's
How about
team.
Westford? Westford's a team that beat him in the tournament last year,
I
isn't
don't
it?
think it's Westboro.
Westford.
Weston.
Oh, Weston.
So
They play them?
I don't think they play Weston, and I don't think they play Bishop Fenwick this year. They are playing. They're playing Arlington Catholic earlier in the season, but most of the big games are on the road. So the team will be very battle tested for the playoffs because they have a really tough schedule with most of the tough games on the road. But the Notre Dame Academy game is home. Central Catholic's big non-league game, that's away, I believe. And the volleyball team's always going to be loaded for bear. Well, I've enjoyed being with you tonight. I'm Ron Sen.
And I'm Ralph Labella, and thank you for watching Let's Talk Sports.